The last 3 years have seen the dynamics of the telecom industry change dramatically. The total number of telephone users has more than tripled to about 800 million. Now you'd imagine that must be keeping the cash registers of telecom companies ringing. Well, not quite. Of the 14 operators in India, only 4 make profits. Time now for some sensible thinking, and all roads lead to a consolidation. Lakshna Gulati gets you more.
The year was 2007. A seemingly harmless and consumer-friendly recommendation from the TRAI had the most unintended fallout. One that severely damaged the telecom industry. Chairman Nipendra Mishra's recommendation to not put a cap on the number of service providers led to an unprecedented flurry of applications for a telecom license. Within weeks, the DOT was flooded with over 500 applications for a license.
There is a very widespread opinion, and opinion shared by most of the people, that the country can do with 5 to 6 licenses, particularly the major incumbents who are performing. Secondly, there is also the issue that whether 11 to 12 licenses can be satisfactorily served with the volume or the quantity of a spectrum, because in India a spectrum is not that kind of a surplus which is there in many other countries.
Suddenly, telecom expertise didn't matter, or at least so it seemed. From real estate companies to tech firms to mining giants, everyone wanted a telecom license. Surprised by the mad scramble for a license, Andimuthu Raja decided then to monetize the desperation of these firms. And that led to the 2G scam. What it also led to was a serious distortion of the market dynamics. 6 operators became 14 within months. In a crowded market with poor quality of service, pricing seemed to be the only lever with which new telcos could create an impact. It all started with Tata Docomo's pay-per-second plan, an innovative pricing scheme which killed the concept of a 60-second pulse for a call. Instead, users could now pay on a per-second basis.
Rather a plus side for us as also for the customer, because the customer spends will come down, but the volumes will spurt up.
That is just one side of the story. The per-second plan also broke the industry's back. Given the fiercely competitive nature of the market, every operator had to follow suit, and no one made money out of it.
We have seen the worst of tariff competition. In fact, if M&A does happen in this sector, I would expect some pricing power to come back to the operators.
For almost 2 years, the industry witnessed a bitter price war. Every operator, big or small, took a knock. Bharti Airtel, which boasted of gross profit margins in excess of 40% before the tariff war, saw them cut to about 30%. Idea Cellular and Reliance Communications also saw brutal cuts in their margins. All the other telecom companies, except the unlisted Vodafone SR, continue to make losses.
14 operators are not 1 or 2 or 3, but several times too many. So there is a need. I think a lot of people who have come in, if they can be given a good, honorable exit, it will be good.
Even from an economic efficiency point of view, the optimum number of service providers is probably 6 or 7, as per the Hofenstahl-Hirschman Index or the HHI Index, which is a commonly accepted measure of market concentration. The TRAI examined the HHI data for different circles. Despite the presence of 12 to 14 operators in every circle, the rate of increase of competitiveness of the market, as measured by the rate of decrease of HHI, is actually insignificant after 6 to 7 operators.
The merrier, unfortunately, is not the case with Indian Telecom. Fewer but healthier operators are likely to be better for consumers than a large number of operators who are unable to build sufficient economies of scale to compete in the long run. So the only way 14 can become 7 again is if there's some serious consolidation.
So what will trigger that consolidation? Large operators are unlikely to acquire smaller ones for their brand power or for their customer base. The only trigger will be spectrum, which is the lifeline of all telecom companies. Days of free allotment of spectrum are over, and the scarce resource will now come with a price tag. So it might just be a better idea to acquire a running business that comes bundled with spectrum.
I think it would be a combination of both. It would be a combination of both. The smaller players who have got a critical mass find it difficult to sustain, so they would look for the right suitors. In my view, yes, the mergers will happen with the larger operators from the smaller operators who are not having that critical mass to sustain.
It's not just M&A that would trigger consolidation in the market. It could also happen if the government were to have an exit policy in place. Currently, license fee of 1,650 crore rupees that's paid cannot be refunded, but many experts believe the government must consider an exit policy and refarm the spectrum that's returned by operators seeking an exit.